Hello?
Hey, is this Adam Hood?
Hey, yes, this is me. How are you?
Hey, Adam, this is Jerry James with Red Dirt Roots Radio.
Hey, Jared, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much. I really appreciate your response, taking the time to talk with us today. How are you?
Oh, totally. My pleasure. Thank you for reaching out and wanting to talk to me. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Alabama, so no complaints.
That's awesome. In Alabama, so you're in Opelika?
Close. Well, that's my hometown. Actually, you pronounced it right. I'm proud of you. That's really great.
Well, I did some research.
It's really nobody really gets it right, to be honest with you. I think it's kind of a fun game. But no, I was born and raised there. I lived there most of my life. My wife's from Tuscaloosa, so we've been in Tuscaloosa area for about 5-6 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay, Tuscaloosa. I'm not familiar with the area, but they definitely sound like country names.
Yeah, that's right. It sounds pretty authentically Southern, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to talk with us on the webcast. And, on this webcast, we're all about the singer-songwriter. So I just think it's really interesting that you're not only an artist, but you're writing for other bands, you're doing all these, you're wearing a lot of different hats, and then you've got your family on the side, so you're a busy guy.
I am a busy guy, yeah, and thank you. That means a lot that, that for someone to take the time to do what you're doing and really showcase songwriters. It's one of those things that I feel like it's kind of a dying art. Not necessarily the writing of a song, but, when I got started doing this, I got started in the era where, records and tapes and things like that were still around. And people actually read liner notes. And I was always curious as to, I heard songs like The Dance and things like that on the radio. And, I always wanted to know who wrote that song. And
right.
So it kind of, it was that curiosity really that sort of led me to doing what I want to do. And now that I have been doing it for, a long time now, you realize that it's, we're not in that era anymore as nearly as much as we used to. And so it really means a lot that you take the time to showcase guys like me. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You know what? It's my pleasure, Adam. And so how many years have you been doing this then?
I've been, employed as a songwriter for a little over 10 years. I've never lived in Nashville, but I had a publishing deal up there for a little over 10 years. I was with Carnival Music for a couple of years, close to 7 years, and that was Frank Liddell's company. He produced Miranda Lambert, and he's Leanne Womack's husband, and produced her last couple of records. And so, Miranda's kind of the person that got me that job. And so I worked with him for a little while, and now I work with No Country Sound, which is Dave Cobb's company. And so, which, I guess a lot of people know who Dave Cobb is, but it's kind of the publishing house that he owns is really a small one. It's me and just two other guys. So, so I've been doing that close to 10 years, but I've been writing songs kind of all my life. I feel like, taking it seriously and making records, writing songs. I guess I started doing that a little after high school when the opportunities came to actually get in a studio and do those things. But yeah, so that's a little background. That makes sense. Yeah,
definitely. It seems like I covered in Adam Hood Spotlight. I started out in radio in 2016. I was covering the artist Spotlight, and I was studying Red Dirt artists, And over there in Texas, in the Lone Star State, they really embraced the singer-songwriter, which really caught my interest because I had released an indie album myself in 2014, and I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to get my music out there or get it heard, but, my dad was a musician, and the reason I ever picked up a guitar, and so I was very interested in trying to find, my niche and also trying to find how to make it work. And, just not having a whole lot of luck over here in the Great Northwest. We're broadcasting out of Oregon, by the way. So I started studying, the Lone Star and not just Texas, but Oklahoma there. And there were so many singer-songwriters. And I came across your name and your music, your song Way Too Long. My daughter and I, we love it. We belt out. We always, when we're going to grocery outlet, bargain market, we turn on Adam Hood and we belt out the windows.
So, well, that's a high compliment. Thank you. That really means a lot. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Absolutely, you know, and so we love your music. We tried covering it. We picked up our guitars and we printed out some chords off of like ultimateguitar.com or something, but we couldn't quite, hold a tune in the bucket compared to you. But we're definitely your fans.
Well, thank you. That really means a lot. I bet you're not giving yourself the credit you deserve for playing it. I'd like to hear that sometimes. That means a lot. Thank you, though. I mean, it's really the ultimate, pat on the back for people to sort of take the time to sit down and learn something that you've created. I mean, I'm still that guy. I still hear songs and hear guitar parts and melodies and things like that. But I go, man, I got to figure out how they did that. So.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No.
So that really means a lot.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And the other thing is, like, I was trying to figure out what else you've done in music. And I was going somewhere a little bit ago. I kind of lost my train of thought when I was telling you that I covered you in an artist spotlight, just trying to figure out where that song, Way Too Long, where does he have other music? Who is this guy? Where's he from? And so I was kind of digging into it, and I seen that you were playing a show. I think it was a bar, if I read right, and Miranda Lambert was like just passing through or something. I think she broke down and somehow she just stumbled upon Mr. Adam Hood. Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I was in New Braunfels, Texas, and there's a show called Roots and Branches that KMBT, the radio station down in New Braunfels, Matson Rayner, the program director there, he and Ray Wally Hubbard, they did a Tuesday night show called Roots and Branches, and so they would bring people in, and they it was kind of a live on the air singer songwriter show, and I played that night, and probably after my second song, I saw Miranda out the corner of my eye, and she came up and introduced herself to me after my set, and I said the same, gave her a CD or two. The next week, her mother called me and said, "Hey, look. We were at that show because our car broke down, and we weren't going to be able to get it fixed until the next night. So we were just going to, they got a room at a bed and breakfast that was, walking distance from the club, and came over and had a drink, and lo and behold, we were there. And so, yeah, I mean, that was how we met. And I mean, I've known her for years. I mean, she's cut a song or two of mine, and like I said, she got me my publishing deal in Nashville, and I owe her a lot. She's been a great friend and a big cheerleader.
Wow, that's a phenomenal story. And it's amazing how things don't always turn out, the way that we picture them. And I feel like we limit ourselves in so many ways, at least I do. And I just go, how in the heck is this thing supposed to work? Because there's no real calculator on it. It's kind of like Sam Morrow's song, Paid by the Mile. And it's like, oh, okay, because stuff just doesn't add up. And my dad, he was a singer-songwriter back in the 70s. And I've got a record from my own dad that's 51 years old. And he wrote all his own stuff. I mean, he did some covers, but he was my inspiration. I got like a front row seat, to Nashville in my own living room. And something came alive in him when he would sing. That was like truly his passion. And that's what inspired me,
Right.
So to see a singer-songwriter, to see them connected and to see them actually follow through and try and make something of their career, you're not promised. There's no guarantees, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, especially in the day and age where it's, everything's really changing, and it's good to hear you say so, because it really is, I mean, I know this is every line of work really, but it's really all a matter of perspective, because, working in kind of the middle of the industry, I mean, Nashville's kind of a nucleus when it comes to what they're absorbing and what they're putting out and things like that. And I mean, everybody has their opinions, and we hear them all the time, whether you like it or whether you don't. It is what it is, and it's a real competitive world. And I can look at my career and hold it up against someone else's, and it might not make me as happy, but that's really not the point. The point is, like you said, I'm able to do this for a living, and we're a one income household, and I feed my family and raise my kids being a songwriter. And I mean, I don't know how much more God could bless us other than Amen. That. It's really every day living a dream, and you got to remind yourself of that, because you're right. I mean, it's a frustrating business, and it's frustrating to, I was out on the road with Brent Cobb for the past 2 weeks, and
awesome.
I feel like we were talking about it every night. Why do some people just have it all, and then you see others that are so talented and nobody knows who they are.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I wish I could answer that question because, in a lot of ways, it's not your merit. It's not popularity. It's just the way it works sometimes. And, so you just knowing that, you just got to tell yourself what a blessing it is just to be working and to have anybody really, pay attention to anything that I'm making is a real blessing. So,
yeah. And you mentioned, I really appreciate what you had to say just now. And you mentioned that you have done some work with Brent Cobb, and he's absolutely one of my favorite artists. I love his song. It's Poor Man, a Traveling Poor Boy. That is my dad's song. When I learned every word of that song, and I was obsessed with it when it first came out on Shine On Rainy Day. I was like, oh my gosh, this is Dad's song. I wish he were alive to hear it, because it was absolutely his story, about not wearing a hole in his pocket, and I just remember that. My dad was such a passionate person, and I absolutely feel like if he had access to some like the equipment that I have access to right now, to be able to run a webcast, and even just a couple of the nice guitars that I've been blessed with. I wish that he had those during that time. And I also wish he could have met a lot of the independent artists out there that are working as hard as so many Red Dirt folks are on our station, because I feel like maybe it would have just been the right person to come along and say, Sean, I see your heart and I hear what you're trying to say and do, and you're very talented, and then help produce that,
Absolutely. Sure. I completely understand. Well, it says a lot that you're doing as much as you are to keep his memory alive and keep his music alive. Because that's the thing. I think about it a lot too. I wonder, I wonder how far these songs are going to live on past me. And that's really the name of the game. There's, as far as being an artist goes, I understand how this works. I understand that it really is. It's a marketing thing and it's a branding thing and stuff like that. But I've always been one, like I said, I've always been the guy that read the liner notes that kind of got past the cover album art and looked to see who actually wrote the song and to see who played bass on the song and to see where it was recorded and see where it was produced. I need to know the nuts and bolts. I want to know the mechanics of the song structure. And, that makes me a student. And so it really was one of those things to where I really never wanted my name and my face to be as important as my music. And so, because of that, you just hope it lasts, and you hope it lasts, beyond your years.
Absolutely. To create a timeless tune. And, my dad used to say that, because we go, well, how do you think of all these songs, Dad? Because he would spend time writing every day, which for me, that's like an absolute, go ahead and park a hashtag in front of goals, to make sure that I spend that time every day with my notebook, and for him, it was a refills on coffee, a Bic pen, and a notebook, a 99-cent notebook. And he would fill it with all his deep thoughts. And he was such a wordsmith. And the content that he came up with, I love to listen to my dad talk. Like, he'd tuck us in at night and sit down at the end of the bed in his low baritone, under his leather cowboy hat, and he'd always have something to say for the day. It was like a theme of the day. And I just remember having the covers up next to my chin and just wondering what he was going to come in with the next night. And that's how he wrote, that's how he sang, and that was my inspiration. And to me, that's the content. Like you said, the message, can it survive the test of time when the smoke clears?
Right, exactly. And it's a harder task than anyone will give it credit for to write every day. Honestly, to tell you the truth, it's not something I do. I try to write thoughts down, but you hear a lot of writers that's their discipline, to actually sit down and to come up with musical thoughts every single day. To me, I admire those people so much because it's really the thing that I sort of, I don't want to say beat myself up about, but at the same time, I look at my discipline and go, man, am I writing every day? And I'm not, but I don't, because of the fact that, like I said, I don't want to force myself into any kind of creativity. You should be able to write every day because you're inspired to write every day.
Absolutely.
And the people that do write every day, I think those people are, like you said, obviously, he was someone that was inspired to write every day. And you do have to make it a discipline. You do have to, but you also have to I don't believe in the forcefulness of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe in you doing it because you love it, and I do love it, but at the same time, it's yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, because I mean, you might go fishing every day, but maybe you're not going to bring home the fish. You're going to throw them back, but it's more for the experience. You're after the rich experience, and that's kind of what I feel like my dad was after. I don't know where all those notebooks ended up, and sometimes I wish I could get in his head, and I bet he would say sometimes I bet you don't wish you could get in my head. As he worked out.
That's probably true.
And so part of it, I think, is the therapy, right? You work out your salvation with fear and trembling, so to speak, on paper, and not all the time is something good going to come out of that. You're going to find a lot of crud in there.
Well, and it's like you said, it's really the point of documenting it too, because it's one thing to do it and to go through it, but it's another thing. I feel like that the stuff that was the easiest for me last month, and the stuff that was the hardest for me last month was last month. And so you want to be able to remember those things, like you said, and whether you make a song out of it or not, it's just a matter of sort of. I mean, if it's important enough for presidents to journal, it's important enough for songwriters to do it, and it's really important enough for human beings to do it. I mean, especially like you said, I'm a father. I've got 3 little girls. Well, I've got 1 big girl and 2 little girls. But you're right that my children are going to want to know the day-to-day of my life when I'm gone. And so it's an important thing, and something that really is the thing that's on my heart a lot to say, you should write it down every day. So I'm a lot better at it than I used to. I'm certainly a lot better at it now at 43 than I was at 23, for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like it is. There's such a calling to it. I mean, if you're a songwriter at heart, not just an artist, but those melodies really do something for your soul. And I believe that you are, Adam. But I'm just saying, anyone out there in general, you do feel sort of like a calling and a pull. There's almost like a sense of almost turmoil or dissatisfaction, at least for me, or discontentment. That it's not really up to anyone else, or it's their responsibility to make me happy. I feel like I have to spend time with my guitar or writing, not forcing anything, but there's just times when I'm absolutely troubled. And so the conflict, or the resolution rather, is in the music. And maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's for someone else that is going through, something fiery, and there's just words that, come to you during that time. Music is so powerful like that. Wouldn't you agree?
I think it's probably the most powerful format to do something like that, and it's the most powerful, and it's really the most universal. It's one of those things to where you just experiences don't necessarily have to be the same in order for you to get the same kind of result out of it. I mean, my relationship or whatever my turmoil may be another person's. The circumstances of another person's turmoil, it may be different, but as long as you can kind of document positive outcome and give somebody some hope. Because I'm with you. I mean, the reason why I started doing this was for myself. Like you said. I mean, I write, and I started writing, and I still write because I enjoy it. I mean, it's because it's my job, but at the same time because I want to, and because I need to, and I'm a little bit more frustrated of a person when I don't. And so, if that's my case, somebody feels that way, and that's kind of that's the beauty in it. Really, to be honest with you, it's a great thing. It's a good thing to be doing this.
Yeah, and your song "Downturn" from your recent album, From Somewhere in Between. I will tell you right now. There, for me, like I can kind of gauge. I use like a traffic light in my head and go, am I in the green? Am I in the yellow? Or am I in a place of conflict? And sometimes I can kind of judge it. Just go, man, you just need to be quiet right now. Like, don't talk to many people today. And I have a big family too, so I got to be careful with those moods and that kind of thing. But I can plug in "Downturn," for example. There's so much resolve in that song for me, because what you do is you take a state of conflict, from my perspective anyway, and you bring it full circle. Adam, that song is really brilliant. It's an amazing tune.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Can you tell me about that album a little bit, or about that song? You want to elaborate?
Sure, absolutely. So I wrote it with Jason Eady, and Jason is I mean, a dear friend. I mean, he and his wife Courtney, they're our parents, godparents, and
Oh, wow.
I was in their wedding and stuff, and so they're really close friends. And Jason and I have written a lot. And the beauty with Jason and I is we really don't sit down in rooms together and write a lot, which is kind of rare. But if I've got a song idea, I'll send it. He's one of the first people I'll send it to. I'll send it to him. I'll send it to Brent, and maybe a few others. Pat McLaughlin is another person I'll send songs to. So I have a very few people that I do that with, and Jason and I have had a lot of good results from that. And that was kind of the case with that song. We played a show in El Paso, and he said, "Hey man, I got this idea for this tune," and we were in the hotel room, and he played it for me, and I said, "Okay, stop." I said, "Let me just record this. We'll work on it for a few minutes, and then we'll go." Because it was the end of the night. I'd had a few beers, and so I don't. Yeah. I have a really weird conscience about that. I don't like if I've had 2 beers to drink, I don't want to write, which is really strange because some people say that their best work is under that relaxation. But anyway,
I'll forget what I'm doing.
We started that song that way, and then I got home, and he had written the first verse, and then I came in on the chorus, and then we kind of started dissecting it after that. And so, it just became what it was. And I'm with you. I think it's my favorite song. And it's one of those songs that I feel like I've kind of grown into that I've had to kind of mature as an artist and as a human being into that song. And I hate to, if I can pick out lines, I think that running in circles beats the hell out of sinking in sand.
Yes.
I think that's the smartest thing I've ever written, to be honest with you.
It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. How many musicians out there? I don't know if I'm alone in this. I'm a wife and mom first and a musician second. And when I was 15, I wanted to be a musician first and a star. And then eventually, as I grew up and I went through some life, went through marriage and kids and all that, I started kind of learning, the balance and how things work and things aren't always what they seem and all that kind of stuff. But so many times when I just got overwhelmed, like I was like, why do I always get these ideas for songs? Like I wrote one recently, Music is My Middle Name. And it's about me giving up on my music completely and saying, you know what, take a hike. Like you're like an old stray. You always come around. Every time I start to get my life back together, then you show up again and you're so loyal. You lay on my front porch, and the whole thing. And it's just like, and I fall back in love with you. And here I am. It's like, this love affair that I keep going back to. I could be such a great wife and mom. I could be so much more focused if I wasn't a musician, and I've gotten so angry at the craft itself. So Downturn is like so much resolve for me because it's just kind of like, you know what, you've got a thorn in your side. You're a songbird, and you're called to do this. And this is not just your story. These are our stories, and you're writing them, and you're interpreting for so many people. So thank you for your work in the music. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's totally my pleasure. And really, you're right. It's a struggle. I don't know anybody. I really don't know anybody that does this that doesn't struggle with it. If they tell you they're not struggling with it, they're lying. They're either lying or they're not being honest with themselves. And so just because, like you said, because there's a lot easier ways to make a living. But at the same time, I say that. But I've done other things to make a living, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed this. It's really nice to be able to do something that you love, and I do. It is for all the pitfalls and all the kind of waiting on your time and all the stuff that everybody tells you that you're doing, and the critiques and the criticisms and the getting it wrongs and all that stuff. It really is. It's a great job, and I couldn't do anything else, and so it really means a lot that it means something to you. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely, Adam. And I know we don't have much time. I had a whole sheet of paper, of questions, but I try when I interview folks, I try not to be too robotic or too professional, because I really do want to hang out and actually, just sort of have raw band talk from musician to musician and sort of let it go where it will. But go ahead and talk about your album.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, well, just keep the paper, and we'll do this again sometime. I'd really like to keep talking about it. I'm with you. I can talk about it all day. It's fun. I'd love to continue the conversations.
Absolutely. No, you're welcome to call in anytime. And, I've talked to so many musicians that listen to the Red Dirt webcast because we have a ton. Most of our station is made up of songwriters, the songwriters that are actually connected to their craft. And so I feel like there's a room just outside the studio in my mind, so to speak, and, figuratively, that's just for the casualties along the way, the folks that support us, and put up with us, us songwriters, but there's just, it seems like there's such a need, there's such a need for support or for therapy, and by supporting one another as songwriters and as fellow musicians, to be able to talk to each other and go, wow, I thought my mind was the only one that worked that way, and then I talked to others, and it's like the lows are low and the highs are high, and trying to, like your album names, find the somewhere in between, right?
Yes, ma'am. You're absolutely right. You couldn't have said it. I couldn't say it any better myself. Absolutely, very true.
Right on, Adam. So, so tell me what you're up to. What's your plans for 2019, and talk about your latest album, where folks can find that.
So, like you said, the new record's called Somewhere in Between. We put it out in October, so it's been out. Almost 6 months. And it's available on iTunes. It's available. You can go to my website, adamhood.com. We'll kind of get you everywhere you need to be, and you can order. We have vinyl and CDs and all that stuff. So that's a pretty good hub to get some direction to the whatever your streaming service or anything like that. So you just go to adamhood.com. And this is my 7th record. I'm proud of it. I mean, it took a long time to do it, to sort of come up with the plan and get up the nerve to do it. There's a 4-year process between this record and the last one, but at the same time, once we kind of got to working, we recorded this record in 2 days. So, it's just one of those things where you kind of, you sort of hope and pray for the timing to be right, and I feel like it really was, and I'm in love with it. I really love this record, and I'm proud of the work that we put into it. So, yeah.
That's excellent, and that would be some of the rewards of sticking with it. You're so far invested. It's like there's no turning back now, and then you're glad at these points when you finish, right? You finish an album and you go, okay, I'm really glad I stuck with this because this is super rewarding. Correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. It is super rewarding, yeah.
So, folks, if you're just now tuning in, we have Adam Hood on the phone, and we're just finishing up a conversation. He's been so gracious with his time to spend with us here on Red Dirt Roots Radio, and he just got done. He was on the road with Brent Cobb, right?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I was on the road with Brent for, I think we did a show or two in January, and the majority of my February I was on the road with Brent. I've been writing with Brent for a long time. So, like I said earlier, I was with Carnival Music for a while, and that's the same company that Brent still writes for. And so I was in my 2nd year when he moved to Nashville, and they moved from L.A. to Nashville. And so I was one of the first people that he wrote with. And we just, in spite of the logistics that got us both there, he's from around Richland, Georgia, and Opelika, Alabama, where I'm from. They're about an hour and a half of each other. So we really, we grew up really close to each other.
Oh, wow.
And so we just had a lot in common. And just musically, I think we've got a lot in common. I think he's one of the most talented songwriters I've ever heard in my whole life, to be honest with you. He kind of blows me away. And he's just a really good friend and somebody that I pull for him. And he's been really nice as far as kind of saying, hey, Adam is a friend of mine, and taking me on the road with him and stuff. I know a lot of people in the industry that I'm friends with that, are just, they've got too much going on to take me on the road. If you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, man.
You can't go on the road when you can't take Adam when you're going on a Brad Paisley tour or something like that, But that's really not the case with Brent. He's been really generous and just a good friend. And so, yeah, that's my deal with Brent.
That's awesome. And, he comes across as being a very down-to-earth person, and storyteller at heart. And that's what I really appreciate about his music. We are almost out of time here. Adam, I would love to talk with you again because I have some more questions for you. And I don't know if we can arrange that, but I will definitely talk to you once we jump off the air. But thank you again so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Jerry. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's do it again. I'd love to do it.
Okay, I'll send you a message, and you enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Adam Hood on Red Dirt Roots Radio. This is Jerry James. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're listening to the Red Dirt Raw Band Talk segment.